That is what police say this man did to his girlfriend, Nancy Howry. Let's bring in our law enforcement analyst guest, Sonny Slaughter. Sonny, good morning to you. Tell us, please, what you make of these facts as we've heard them so far.
Good morning, Julie. Always great to be with you. So, you know what month it is. It's October, Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And this is one of the most heinous domestic violence murders. Okay, let me say it again. Domestic violence murders. Relationship, violence, arguing, probably previous violence, now murder. The facts in this case and the allegations that law enforcement not understanding what they should not do and kept asking questions may have compromised this case that should be easy, but as your other guest said previously, this case is so convoluted from a criminal who has actually shown everything that he's done.
Right, Sonny. Thank you for that. As we take a live look at the courtroom, we see there are few people there. Her Honor is one of them. Seems that the judge is ready to go. We've got a couple lawyers, a couple deputies. Doesn't look like the defendant has been brought over yet, though. So because he is in jail, he's going to be transported and then brought up, uncuffed and whatnot before they bring the jury in. So it doesn't look like they're quite ready to go just yet. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to hit our first break of the hour. We'll go right back into the courtroom and get ready to see what week number 2 brings us in the Scattered Remains murder trial.
I'm Vinny Politan. Welcome to Closing Arguments.
What's happening here?
It's unreal. Let me show you exactly what happened.
Closing Arguments with Vinny Politan, tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
A wife accused of murdering her prominent attorney husband, and the defense involves blaming her own sons?
Victim to Verdict with Ted Rollins. New episode Saturday night, 8 Eastern and Pacific.
Only on Court TV.
Thank you for waking up with us this Monday morning. I'm Julie Grant, and this is Court TV Live. I want to show you the trials we're tracking for you today, and guess what? They're all in the state of Florida. Just coincidentally, we've got convicted killer Jose Soto Escalera back in court for his sentencing. Everything is expected to get underway at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll go there live when it happens. Also in court this morning in Florida, we've got former Miami Hurricane Rashawn Jones. He's got a motions hearing ahead of his homicide case. He's accused of killing his teammate, Brian Pada. We're tracking that one for you, and the case I've been talking about all morning long, the Scattered Remains murder trial. Defendant Daniel Stearns just being brought in. There he is wearing the blue tie and the gray suit jacket. He's incarcerated, but of course wearing street clothes for the jury. The jury does not know he's incarcerated. They also will not know that he confessed to this crime. His confession has been suppressed. So the jury can only consider what comes before them. We'll see what day number 6 brings today. With the defendant just getting seated, that tells me that the jury is going to be summoned for next. So as we're waiting for the jurors, we have another piece of trial footage that you may not have seen yet. We've got a clip from one of the case investigators, Agent Neil Lee. Let's take a look at some of what he told the jury.
During discussion about den of iniquity, and somebody claimed that he may have sent a text. Did you ever get a text? Recover any sort of text showing that ever happened?
My recollection, no. The den of iniquities was, I believe, provided to us by, I'm not sure exactly who, but it was Agent Peterson who had handled that and regarding the den of iniquities.
Sure it wasn't just made up?
No, sir.
Was it?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Where'd it come from?
It would have been Agent Peterson receiving it from a different source. I was unfamiliar.
You're a case agent on the case, right?
Yes, sir.
All information comes to you?
Yes.
And so if it existed, you would have had access to it?
Yes, I just can't recollect that specific information as of this moment.
Did it actually exist, or is it just something that was made up in this conversation?
No, it existed. I do recall that specific phrase, however, I don't recollect where exactly it was from.
Is it possibly just remembering the interview?
No.
Right. Who supposedly said that?
That I'm not unsure as to how that information got brought in, the specific address and den of inequities.
What address is it supposed to be?
That we actually were not able to determine what the specific relevance of that address was from remembering.
Is someone else saying that someone sent this text?
From my understanding with speaking with Agent Peterson, yes.
And so your knowledge is coming from Agent Peterson?
Regarding that specific message, yes.
And you don't know whether or not it's real or made up?
No, I believe that it was an actual information. However, I can't recollect exactly where it's from at this current moment.
Are police allowed to lie to people?
In what sense?
Are you allowed to lie to people you're investigating?
I believe it depends on the situation.
So police do sometimes lie to people they're interviewing?
It's possible.
Do you know whether or not Agent Peterson is simply lying in this interview?
No, sir.
You said there was no location data as to the second device. Remember that?
Yes.
But that device, the search warrant was only for February 15th?
I'm not sure as to the exact date range for that device. I believe so, but I'd have to confirm.
So there could have been data before the 15th?
If that data was for the 15th, perhaps there may have been information.
And there could have been data after the 15th? You wouldn't know?
No, I wouldn't know. No, I'm trying to recollect the exact wording as to the response from T-Mobile.
Did you collect DNA from Mr. Stearns?
Yes, I believe it did.
Was this for the purpose of comparing it to other samples collected in the case?
Yes.
Did you instruct someone to collect DNA from Ms. Howard?
Me personally, no, I did not.
Did Agent Peterson instruct people to do it?
Yes, he may have.
And would that be for the purpose of looking for Ms. Howard's DNA
Yes.
as to other things that were tested?
Correct.
No other questions?
That address at 1580 La Madeira, did you get that from Iana Ramos, Ms. Howard's friend?
Yes, I believe so. It was an interview with Ms. Ramos.
Okay. And that was where that den of inequity description came from, right?
Right.
So you didn't make it up?
No.
And Agent Peterson didn't make it up?
No, he did not.
But you determined that it wasn't a text from the defendant, like you guys thought in that interview. It was some text that Ms. Ramos had, right?
I believe that's what had occurred, but I can't say for certain as for that specific.
Okay, and did you go to that address, 1580 La Madeira Drive, and interview somebody that lived there?
Yes, I believe Agent Peterson and I did.
Okay. And they didn't have any information about this case?
No.
Nothing true?
So the address turned out to have nothing to do with anything?
From my recollection, no, sir.
And the allegation of den iniquity wasn't a text at all? It was something that Ms. Ramos talked about?
Now that I'm remembering, yes.
Okay, so there's no text.
Right, no, not to my knowledge, no.
So the conversation that was being had with Mr. Stearns, that isn't true. There never was a text.
As to what exactly?
Den of iniquity of these addresses. This all came apparently from Ms. Ramos.
The address, I believe, came from Ms. Ramos, and that, from remembering now, I think research on it was done as to that specific address, and that phrase came about.
And that phrase came from where, Ms. Ramos?
The address itself, when we did research through our analysts.
And where did the phrase den of iniquity come from?
I'm not entirely sure where that phrase came from. It was just relayed to me.
So it very well may just be made up?
I don't believe so, no.
Or it came from Ms. Ramos?
I don't believe so.
Who did it come from?
Again, it would have been through research. That specific address, I believe, came from Ms. Ramos.
I'm no longer talking about an address. Where did the phrase den of iniquity come from?
I can't say for certain where that specific phrase came from.
Is it possible it came from Ms. Ramos?
It could be.
Is it possible that Detective Peterson simply made it up?
No, I don't believe so.
You don't believe so, or you know he didn't?
No, he did not.
You know where he got it from?
That I don't know.
But it didn't come from Mr. Stearns?
No.
Thank you.
Statements must be excused. Yeah. I think you may excuse me.
We're going to get you back into the scattered remains murder trial in just a moment. But first, we have some breaking news that we want to share with you. The U.S. Supreme Court has rejected an appeal from Ghislaine Maxwell. She's the imprisoned ex-girlfriend and madam of Jeffrey Epstein. Lawyers for Maxwell were arguing that she never should have been tried or convicted for luring teenage girls to be sexually abused by Epstein. Maxwell is currently serving a 20-year prison sentence, and as per usual, the justices did not explain why they will not take up her case. Coming up, we're going to go back to Florida for more of the scattered remains murder trial. We have the first witness on the stand. She is a medical witness as she's going through her CV right now. As we hit the commercial break, we'll let her get her background in before the jury, and then we'll get into the sum and substance of her purpose as a testifying witness for the state of Florida in this homicide case.
And then we began the briefing process, and then we suffocated her with the offer. So yes.
Plus, we have some brand new on-aired footage from Ohio as an 18-year-old Amish man is accused of raping and killing a woman that he worked with. Back to Florida we go. We're in the scattered remains murder trial. We've got a witness on the stand this morning. Let's take a listen together now. Sidebar. Oh, Okay, and as we throw into court, look what they're doing. They're at sidebar. But that's okay. That means we get to have our own sidebar here. I want to bring in our law enforcement analyst guest, Sonny Slaughter, making some great points this morning. Sonny, you know, we can't talk about domestic violence prevention enough, can we? And you raised a point earlier and want to talk a little bit more. I was looking at something you put on X about how there are patterns to look for, that things don't happen in a vacuum when you're dealing with abusive relationships. Talk to us a little bit about that, if you would kindly, please.
Thanks, Julie. Yes, I've been posting, and I will be posting for the entire month, little tidbits. And there are patterns of domestic violence, things that are happening in relationships that people often see that ignore, but also that law enforcement ignore. When they come out, when law enforcement respond to a call, they should be asking very specific questions around patterns and what has happened and how many times does a person take your phone from you? How often do they lock you out of the house. And this will show a pattern of abuse and not just looking at a singular incident that may happen. So when we start changing our minds to recognize that we should ask questions differently, this allows for law enforcement investigative practices to intervene more quickly. It allows for family members and the members of the public and community to not just take an incident as a one-off, and it allows the criminal justice system to have this evidence presented as a pattern of abuse that is systemic and systematic in order to introduce it into the court and weigh it against the defendant's actions in totality.
I really appreciate that, Sunny. I would love to know about the history here between this defendant and his girlfriend who vanished, Nancy Howry. Sunny, what things would you be curious to know about their relationship prior to things getting to the point where we know there were lots of arguments going on right before she disappeared?
I would like to know first actually how they met. What happened at the very beginning of their relationship. Did he appear to be controlling to her friends? Was he telling her not to go places, not to show up and do things without him? And was she sad all of the time? Or were they having arguments? And specifically, what were those arguments about and what happened after those arguments? Because wanting to go and shoot guns seems like a weird thing to do after you've had an argument with someone.
Right. Sunny, thank you so much for the insights. Let's listen in for more questions of this witness. Here we go.
Designated as being recovered from 4 different sites.
Yes, they were.
Okay. And let's divide up our discussion by those different sites, okay?
Yes.
Site 1 was listed as Alcova Street Southwest, is that right?
May I refresh my recollection by looking at my report?
If that would help you, yes.
It would.
Actually, before we even talk about that, let's talk about Site 2 first and get it out of the way.
Yes, ma'am.
Site 2 was designated as a truck, right?
Correct.
And was there anything, any bones collected from the Chevy truck?
There were no bones inside the truck. There was material that was sent to me for analysis, and I separated out rocks and shell and other debris, which is a major part of what a forensic anthropologist does, is to separate out bone from other materials.
Okay. But no bones from Site 2, as it's designated?
You're correct. No bones from Site 2.
Okay. So let's go back to Site 1. Did you refresh your recollection where that was designated, the area?
Yes, ma'am. It's Alcova Street.
Alcova Street Southwest.
Yes, ma'am.
Hearsay.
Overruled. Okay. And
May I understand the objection?
you may. That was designated as a 1-foot deep burial?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And how many bone fragments did you identify out of Site 1?
There were 529 bone fragments.
Now, did you further subdivide those bone fragments into different categories?
I did. I subdivided them by, colloquially, what is from the head or the cranium and mandible, and then what is beneath the head, which we refer to as postcranial.
Okay. So postcranial means anything below the head?
Yes, ma'am.
And how many bone fragments were there that were postcranial out of that Site 1 Alcova Street?
There were 529 fragments that ranged in size from about 1/2 inch to maybe 3.5 inches.
But how many of those 529 were postcranial?
Of the 529 that were postcranial, I believe 470, approximately 470 fragments were postcranial, the rest being cranial.
Okay, so the other 55 or so were from the head or above the neck area?
Yes.
And did you, I think you already said, that you measured those?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay.
And I presented a minimum and maximum, with the smallest being less than 1 inch and the largest being just about the width of a Post-it note, a small yellow Post-it note.
Okay. Now, We talked about Site 2 was listed as a vehicle. Site 3, what was that listed as?
Site 3, I'm not sure what it was listed as far as a street name.
Okay.
I can refresh my recollection if that's all right.
That's fine if you need to. Sure. Did you designate these on your report as well, these areas, to help you keep everything straight?
I did. I designated them as areas 1 through 4, and I did have a GPS map that helped me understand where these sites were in relation to each other. But unfortunately, the street names have escaped me at the moment. I apologize.
That's fine. If you need to refresh your recollection, look at your report. My question is, what was the street name associated with what was designated as Site 3?
Maury Court Southwest.
Okay. And what was listed as the approximate measurements of the burial site there?
The measurement of the burial site was 6 feet by 3 feet, and then 3 feet deep.
Okay. And what did that contain? What did the stuff that you received that was designated as being taken from Site 3 contain?
The material that I received that had the designation of Maury Court and that was designated as Site 3 contained 3 fragments of the cranium or the head, and I believe a toenail, a piece of dried scalp, and hair, as well as other debris that was not bone or human material.
Okay, was there some soft tissue in that as well?
Yes, I believe it was dried, mummified tissue. I think it was scalp.
And did you measure the cranial fragments?
I did, and in my report I gave the smallest to the largest fragment, and so those fragments again ranged in size from about 1/2 inch to perhaps 4.5 inches, or less than 1/2 inch to 4.5 inches, and 4.5 inches, I guess, being about the height of a soda can.
Okay. And then Site 4 was listed as what area?
Site 4 was listed as Sauceville, I believe, Avenue.
Okay, and what was designated as the measurements of that burial site?
That burial site was designated as 3 feet by 3 feet by 3 feet.
Okay, and what was contained in that material that you received that's designated from Site 4, Sauceville Avenue?
I believe it was over 300 fragments, with 10 of those fragments coming from the cranium and the teeth, or the dentition, and the rest being from beneath the head or the postcranial skeleton.
And was there anything significant about the condition of those bone fragments?
Well, those bone fragments, as I described from Site 1, were small, and they evidenced a thermal change, which means they were exposed to fire.
Okay. And so let's talk about what you did first. You get all of this stuff. What is the first step in trying to make sense of any of this?
The first step in trying to make sense of material that was sent to me was to photograph the outside of the box, how the material was sent to me, how these human remains were sent to me, and then to photograph each bag and before it's opened, and then once it's opened, to photograph all of the human remains and the material that's inside each bag. Then what I'll do is I lay out the material on trays and include their designation that was provided by the medical examiner and law enforcement. And then I go through the painstaking process of separating out non-bone material from other material that can sometimes look a lot like bone. And I separate that out, and then I go through the process of what's called estimating the minimum numbers of individuals. And what that means is that I try to identify every bone fragment that has a mark on it that might identify a muscle site. So, for example, if we're thinking about our upper arm or our humerus, we have a muscle called the deltoid that inserts here, and it actually makes a mark on your upper arm bone or humerus. And so sometimes with fragmentation, I'll see those sites of muscle insertion. So not only can I tell by its shape that it's a humerus, but then I might be able to side it because I know the deltoid muscle marks the side and then twists around the bone, almost like a candy cane stripe would twist around a candy cane. And so for each instance, I looked to see if I could identify the small fragments, organizing them by bone type, trying to figure out whether they were right or left and if they had diagnostic criteria on them. And then I went through all 800 fragments to make sure there was no irregular duplication.
What does that mean? Let me slow you down. When you separate everything out, you try to identify it. You said you can, when you're trying to cite it, that means you can say where on the body specifically, which part it was, depending on joints and connections and things like that. But then you make sure that there is no irregular duplication. Explain that.
What I'm doing there is making sure that, for example, there wouldn't be two upper arm bones where the deltoid inserts at the same exact location. That would then prepare me for two individuals, and instead of having 206 intact bones or 800 fragments, I would expect 412 adult intact bones or twice that many fragments. And I found no irregular duplication. All of the bones were consistent in size and shape and age, and I found no irregular duplication of too many rights or too many lefts of one specific skeletal element like the upper arm bone I just told you about.
So all of the bones.
What a job this forensic anthropologist has, looking over remains and determining whether they belong to the body of the particular individual they're concerned with identifying. In this case, Nancy Howery, 44 years old when she was taken from this earth in the year 2023. Did her boyfriend, Daniel Stearns, do it? That question is going to be for the jury. Plus, later today on Court TV, we've got unaired footage for you from a new case that we're calling Sex and Murder in Amish Country. An 18-year-old Amish man is accused of raping and murdering his coworker.
My two best friends were just murdered.
Join me for a Court TV true crime series where we take you from the crime scene to the courtroom.
Donna Adelson hates every piece of grass that Dan Marcel ever walked on.
It's something that'll haunt all of us forever.
It always seemed like he was covering or deceiving.
This was a whole different level.
Victim to Verdict with Ted Rowlands. New episodes Saturday night, 8 Eastern and Pacific.
Only on Court TV.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Julie Grant. We're in the scattered remains murder trial for defendant Daniel Stearns. I want to show you a live look at the courtroom, and there's a little pause as the prosecution is getting an exhibit ready to go for this witness, who's a forensic anthropologist. Now, why would we have a witness like this brought in? Well, if you're just now joining us, the allegation is that the defendant murdered his girlfriend, buried her body, dug up her body, then set the body of his girlfriend on fire and scattered those remains. And so the bone pieces that were left over were given to this analyst to look at and confirm whether or not they belong to Nancy Howery, who was 44 years old at the time of her death. She was also a mother of two children, ages 13 and 11, at the time of her death in 2023. That's young. That's really young to lose a mother. Let's talk about that, the impact of her death on her family. We know she was married at one point in time. Her husband, Todd, was a big witness, came in on day one of this case when the trial kicked off last week and talked about how she was supposed to pick up the kids from school, and when she didn't, that was a big red flag for him, and he reported her missing. And we know that she was in this on-again, off-again relationship with the defendant, Mr. Stearns. I want to bring in Sonny Slaughter and talk about this. Sonny, I know you're thinking about those kids, as am I, and our courties at home, 13 and 11, when their mom went missing.
Jesus. You know, You know, I get so emotional about the kids, always make me so emotional. The collateral consequences of domestic violence and domestic violence murder always becomes those that we ignore, that we forget about, and those that we leave behind. And that's our children. They are forever impacted by the loss of their mom, her death. Is one thing, but the heinous details of her murder will never, ever escape them. And for this, I think society, we must do better. We have got to change this. Domestic violence is only one crime, but it is the crime that keeps happening, and I just don't understand why. This man is just horrific. He burned her. And I was listening before you were on the air thinking, she was going through the pieces of like a gravel or something to look for bone fragments.
Yeah, isn't it awful? I mean, isn't it awfully sad, Sunny? I know. That this is a human being, who wasn't able to have a proper burial. And her body allegedly burned by this man who was supposed to love her and be in a relationship with her. Very, very chilling, what is alleged here in this case. And it looks like they've got an exhibit up on the Elmo. I can see it in the courtroom. I think we have an audio signal. I believe she's showing her some of the fragments. Let's listen in.
For my analysis.
In all total, how many photographs do you think there were? Like 900 and some?
Yes, I build in a lot of redundancy in my analysis.
These
I
aren't all of
apologize.
them. These are just representational of what you did. Is that
Yes, ma'am.
okay? Showing you states 263. What's that?
That was the picture of the paper bag that had contained material, and that's how I would identify which site the material was from.
Okay, so for example, this one was listed Alcova Street, and that's what was inside that you designated as Alcova Street.
Yes, ma'am.
States 264. What are we looking at here?
So then I would take the material out and place it on a tray so that I could spread it out a little and have a better picture of what was contained there.
And states 265.
And that's the same as I go deeper into the box. There are more bags with envelopes, and I just, as though you're removing earth, I just keep moving down layer by layer.
And 266.
That was the identification that was on.
That this one, or do you know?
I don't know. I don't remember.
But this had, it was identified as Scottsville Avenue, burn fragments.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then this is states 267. I think that's just a different picture of the same envelope, actually.
Yes.
States 268. What is that?
That is material from within one of the envelopes or bags, and I had put it into a tray to make sure that all the small bits were caught. There's a lot of dirt in that image, and there's also human hair viewable, as well as some soft tissue.
Now, did you create a table that kind of made an inventory of all the different bones, cross-referencing which site they were designated as coming from and so forth?
Yes, I did, and I included that table in my report.
Okay, I'm showing you what's in evidence in states 269. Is that report?
Yes, it is. As you can see from the image, that's page 7 of the 9-page report. And in this table, I have on the far left the element. So that means the bone name. For example, frontal would be synonymous with your forehead bone. And then there was not enough there to side it, but there was one fragment. Bone completeness, it was between 25 and about 74 or 75% complete, and that came from site 3. And so that's how I organized the table on the x-axis or horizontally.
Okay, so you go through the different bones on this left column here. And then, like you said, some of them you're able to say which side it is. You list the number of the fragments. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And then the bone completeness.
Yes.
And then again, up here you have a designation as cranial, postcranial, so head, and then below the head.
Yes.
And then here you have whether they are from site 1, 2, or 3. There's not going to be anything from site 2, right?
Correct.
There were no bones that come from the truck.
Correct.
And so this is sort of just an overall demonstration of what your findings were from the different locations.
Yes, that's correct.
And then states 270. What are we looking at?
Here we're looking at, I'm laying out all of the fragments. I'm trying to get them organized by size and type. In the lower left-hand corner, those are cranial fragments. And then when we look directly to the left.
Oh, what a job.